This can be used for emotions, all negative emotions. It can be used for traumatic experiences, painful memory. It can also be used for physical pain that has an emotional basis. Everyone has kind of a thermostat of how much good and ease and flow we allow into our lives. We have to keep kind of turning that thermostat and opening ourselves up to a little bit more. And as soon as you open yourself up to a little bit more ease, a little bit more flow, you get something that you wanted.
Today's masterclass is on emotional freedom technique known as EFT tapping. Our guest today is Maria Bonita, a fearless femme energy coach and EFT practitioner that helps women create outer wealth through inner wealth. Maria overcame PTSD with EFT tapping and now shows women how to regulate their nervous system so they can become a fearless match to their prosperous feminine power. Welcome, Maria.
Hello, Anita. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure having you. Great. So what is emotional freedom technique EFT tapping for anyone that's listening and doesn't know?
Yeah, so EFT specifically is a technique that came about in the 90s, but it's based on Chinese medicine, which is much, much older. So it actually came about by accident, and it was originally something else called TFT, and this involves tapping on different pressure points on your body. So originally, there was someone was working with a woman. It was a psychologist was working with a woman who had a fear of water, and he tried lots of different things, all the traditional things that he'd been taught to try with this woman to help her get over her phobia. Nothing seemed to work. He happened to be reading a book about Chinese medicine, and he just said to the woman, "Tap under your eye," because it was a last resort. Didn't really expect it to do anything. The woman tapped under her eye, and then went and threw water on her face and completely got over this phobia of water. And obviously he couldn't believe that, maybe this is just a fluke, what is going on here? Obviously, I will say now that I've done a lot of practice, not everyone's phobias are that quick to get over with just, a couple of minutes, but it can happen. And so he went on to develop something called TFT, thought field therapy, which I also use. It's another type of tapping, but it has very specific algorithms. So there's a very specific algorithm for phobias, a very specific one for anxiety, a specific one for certain types of trauma. And so TFT is fantastic. Like I say, I incorporate it myself, but it's a little bit kind of difficult or a bit challenging for the average person to just do. So because of that, they then developed this thing called EFT, which is the simple version, which the basics, anyone can do after this masterclass. You'll be able to do it for yourself, which is just tapping on the main pressure points, mostly around the face. And we can go into those in a minute. And so, it's been around since the 90s, but it's based on Chinese medicine from thousands of years, similar to acupuncture, but we don't need any needles for this one, which is the good thing.
Definitely, I don't like needles.
Yeah. And it's based on the premise that every negative emotion is based on an energetical imbalance in your body. So this can be used for emotions, all negative emotions. It can be used for traumatic experiences, painful memories, and it can also be used for physical pain that has an emotional basis. So for some physical pain, it can also work really, really well.
Gosh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it does. Sometimes when I start just explaining it, some people are like, it sounds a bit too good to be true, and it sounds a bit too simple to be true. But a lot of it really is. It really is fantastic. I came about it myself through my own journey. So I had PTSD after an abortion, and for about a year I had flashbacks or certain smells, like hospital smells and stuff would trigger me in the middle of the street, just things like that. And a friend was learning tapping, and I asked her, she needed someone to practice on. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll volunteer, you can practice on me, not thinking anything about it. And I noticed that in just a few minutes, I felt amazing the rest of the day.
Wow.
I was feeling a bit anxious and stuff, 5 minutes of tapping with her, a few minutes, the anxiety shifted. And I was just a bit surprised that something that simple could actually do something, So then I started working with a practitioner myself, one-on-one with someone, going into different fears, different things. And, I said to her, I had this experience. Are you willing to do it with me? I just felt drawn to ask her. And she was like, yeah, of course. So in 1 hour with an experienced practitioner, because I do say that if it's something a bit heavier, if it's a traumatic experience, if there's something else, you want to do it with an experienced practitioner, not just yourself, like with a YouTube video or something. In just 1 hour, it really shifted my whole perception around the thing. So before, I wasn't even able to talk about it without crying or without, bringing up a lot of stuff. Now I can think about the whole situation. I remember every detail of the memory, but the emotions behind it have disappeared. They've dissipated. So the embarrassment, the shame, the anger, the frustration, the confusion, all the negative emotions I had around it were neutralized through EFT. So it no longer impacts me in any negative way. And as a result of that, since that day, I've never had a panic attack. I've never had a flashback. I've never had a trigger, nothing. And so
wow. It's fantastic.
It's fantastic. And that was a life-changing moment, because I was working as a teacher in a high school in South America. And I thought, I can't just sit here and keep doing the same things when I've had this profound experience and I've seen that someone else who wasn't a registered medical professional, because I'm going to be honest, she was not a psychologist, and neither am I. I'm an EFT practitioner. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. Someone who wasn't one of those professions was able to make a much, much bigger, faster and safer impact than traditional therapy, in my personal experience, because I'm not, it can be fantastic for a lot of people, right? So I thought, wow, there's this tool that is very simple, that is very easy, that people need, because even if you're not someone that's had a really deep traumatic experience, we all struggle with, a bit of anxiety now and again, just because of the way the world is and the way everything's structured and the things that are going on in the media and all these different things bombarding us, right? We need some simple little tools that we can use. And my only wish is that I had have learned this when I was a bit younger. I wish I'd been taught this as a kid or as a teenager, because I was not able to regulate my nervous system. I was not able to regulate my emotions. And now I have this gift. And the knock-on effect is that now you can apply it for different things. You can use it to grow. So now I do a lot of work with people around money mindset, or around self-worth, or around, their businesses, building their business. You can apply it to absolutely anything, and it can neutralize all the negative emotions. It can help you see things. It can also have what we call secondary benefits, which is, I've noticed this has happened quite a lot of times, where, for example, someone will have migraines, right? And they'll come to me and they say, please, can we do a tapping on, something completely different? And we'll tap on something completely different. And then they'll send me a message and they're like, you know what? And they didn't even tell me about the migraines. They're like, you know what? Since the day we've done the tapping, I haven't had any more migraines. Or, these other things. Or, I was having a pain in the lower back and that pain disappeared since that day. But they wouldn't have even told me on that day, please, let's tap. I have this lower pain on my back, or whatever it was. So there's these amazing things called secondary benefits. And I think it just goes back to the fact that everything is connected. Everything is energy. And that's not just me saying something woo-woo. That's, like quantum physics. That's the science that's coming out. And EFT is something that really connects the mind and the body. So it's a somatic alternative therapy that connects the mind and the body and recognizes that as humans, we're also spirit. And I think that's why it's really, really effective. Because what we do in tapping is, like I said, we tap on these main pressure points and we repeat certain phrases. And that combination of, okay, I'm talking, I'm tapping together makes it very, very powerful and works very fast. There are some studies, there's actually a really good TED talk on EFT tapping that you can find that showed that Dr. Peter Stapleton, she's done the most kind of scientific peer-reviewed research on EFT. And she's shown that it can work faster than cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's something that just needs to get out there, really.
Definitely. And what are the tapping points?
So there's actually many, many different ones. I mean, there's some on the feet, there's some around the hands. There's many different ones that you could use, but the main ones that we tend to use, just because they're easily accessible, most people can reach them, and that they're simple. We don't have to take your clothes off, like, the ones on your feet, you have to take your shoes off, all of that kind of thing, would be the top of the head. And obviously the top of the head has kind of all of the different nerve endings. There's so many things going on at the top of the head. We've got the eyebrow point, just above the eyebrow. We've got the temple point, and this one's fantastic for resentment or for anger, just above the temple here. We've got under the eye, which is great for fear, for worry, for anxiety, because you can just tap on one of these if you want one day. You can just tap on one of them. We've got under the nose, which is often for embarrassment. We've got the chin, which is great for shame as well. We've got the collarbone. This one's good for kind of all anxiety, worry. And then we've also got the underarm. The underarm one is kind of, for women, it's like where the bra strap is, and for men, it would be directly alongside the nipple. But this one is sometimes not used as much because it can be a little bit uncomfortable. This is all very flexible. If someone's a little bit larger, tapping under the armpit can sometimes be too much of a faff. If you have problems raising your hands up in the air, you don't have to tap on the head and you can just tap somewhere else. So it is very flexible for people that have different physical abilities. If you can only reach one place, that's fine. You can tap on one place. I recently had like an intimate medical appointment, a smear test, and I was a bit nervous. Okay. So when I was laying down, I asked the woman, is it okay? And she was like, yeah, go for it. So I was just tapping on my collarbone. So I wanted to share that, because if you are going through anything that's kind of uncomfortable, you can actually use this. And I explained, the doctor was asking me, what are you doing? And I told her all about EFT tapping, and it actually really, really helps. So there's something for everyone there.
Excellent. So yes. So doing this tapping, how often would you have to do it? And is it a practice? Is it something that you would do daily? Are there little segments? How many times would one tap?
So there's no hard and fast rules here. My general idea is, I say, tap what you feel drawn to, because there's two sides of the spectrum here, and I've seen both. So I personally tap every single day for like 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. Okay. Not anything more. If you want to treat something deep, like I say, like you have a traumatic experience or something that you really need to shift, you want to do a longer session with a practitioner, and that is where you're going to get really big results. Regardless, though, there are some people, for example, that want to quit smoking, because you can use tapping to quit smoking, and will tap themselves with a video, and it might take them a few months online doing it with a video on a regular basis. So there is kind of different options. Usually with my clients, after we've done an intensive tapping session one-on-one, based on what comes up, I will create a personalized script for them, and then I'll invite them to tap on it for 30 days. Every day, and that's like a 5-minute tapping script for 30 days. That's what I find helps create massive shifts, really big shifts when you do that. But I've also known people to tap multiple times a day. Okay. The only thing I would say is I have also known, I got a message, I have messages before from people saying, I've done 10 of your YouTube videos today and I'm feeling a bit weird. I think maybe, did I overdo it? So yeah. You can't really overdo it, but you can a little bit, because
Yeah,
Tapping
10
also,
videos.
yeah, and it also works on the lymphatic system, so it dehydrates you. And so some people don't realize that they don't drink enough water, and then they feel a bit dizzy or they feel a bit spaced out. So I always remind people, if you're doing tapping or anything that works with energy, you need to drink like more water than you would in your regular day-to-day drinking.
That's excellent. Yes. So are there any misconceptions about having EFT?
Yeah, so one of the misconceptions is that I've noticed there's two different ways to do this. There are some people, some coaches, some therapists that use it on a very superficial level, and that's not bad because it still
Okay.
helps people. But because they use it on a very superficial level, they say tapping's not good for trauma. Tapping, it takes a long time to clear
Mhm.
something with. They say certain things, which isn't actually true. It's just that they're not using it in such a deep level of skill, or they're not as familiar with it, so they don't know how to apply it for trauma
Mhm.
or how to apply it for other things. So that's one of the only things I've seen that some people have said. I would say in general, tapping is considered to work for like 85 to
Mhm.
90% of people approximately. So there
That's good.
probably is, like 10%, 15% of people where it's not really going to work very much. But even then, it can't do anything worse. It can't hurt you, which is the great thing. Not like, like a medication where it could have a negative side effect. The only negative side effect of tapping is that it won't do anything. So I think
Mhm.
that is fantastic.
Yes.
Any other kind of maybe misinterpretations or kind of negative connotations? I suppose some people think that it is a little bit too good to be true.
Yes.
Some people think it's too good to be true, and some people, I've been in a tapping session with someone, and they felt a massive shift, because what we always do at the beginning of a session is we rate an emotion. So say, for example, you're saying, I feel scared about something, or I feel anxious. I'll ask you to scale it on a scale of 0 to 10. How anxious are you feeling right now? Oh, I'm at an 8. So I'll work with this person, I'll check in with them and like, where is it now? They're like, oh, it's gone down to a 3. And so when, say, for example, like someone comes to me with anxiety and it's gone from an 8 to a 3 in 5 minutes, I'll ask them, how do you feel? What do you think? They're like, oh, well, it couldn't have been that. It's got to be something else, or, oh, you distracted me. That's what I get. Like, don't maybe believe that it's as good. It's a bit too good to be true.
Yes. So how can EFT tapping show women how to regulate their nervous system? Because that's really interesting. I'm interested in all of that.
Yeah, so the studies that have been done on tapping, which honestly are not enough, there's not that much science that's been done, but the studies that have been done show that it affects the amygdala, which is the
Okay.
place that triggers fear and triggers anxiety, especially around memories. So honestly, just tapping on its own, even without, following one of my YouTube videos and repeating what I say, even just tapping on these different pressure points, as you're thinking, or the other one that I haven't shared yet, which is the side of the hand, which is
Okay.
just here. This one's fantastic. Even just, for example, sitting down and doing this, it will impact the amygdala and it will help relax the amygdala. So it is just incredibly simple how that then impacts the rest of your nervous system. And that's why it relaxes you so fast. People that have migraines, people that have any type of anxiety. And you can
Mhm.
use this alongside anything else that you're doing, right? If you're on medication, you can use this alongside medication. If you're doing
Mm.
other types of therapy, or you're doing yoga, or you're doing anything, you can use this on alongside it. And once you start doing that, you'll notice that you can actually minimize the anxiety, and minimize the anxiety around different memories, different situations.
That's excellent. So what resources do you recommend, daily tips to anyone that wants to improve their life by doing EFT tapping?
So I have a YouTube channel, The Vida
Mm-hmm.
Bonita, and it has tons and tons of free tapping videos that they're all kind of 5 to 10 minute videos on lots of different topics. If you don't like the ones I create, there's some other people that create them. If you put EFT, if you just go into YouTube and you type EFT and whatever you're dealing with, like I said, you can use it to quit smoking, you can use it for manifesting and creating things in your life. You can do it for physical pain. So, I mean, anything that you're dealing with at the moment, I would just put, just Google EFT and then whatever you're dealing with, and you will find lots of different videos and lots of different resources. I consider that videos are the best place to start. And then from there, if you're interested, you can look at different courses. I mean, I have a training program. I train women as well so they can use it with their own clients. There's a few different books available as well. But it is something where you kind of have to use Google and do your own research. Because like I said, it's not considered, it's not well established. The NHS doesn't recognize it, or you're not going to find it anywhere else.
That's excellent. Yeah, good tips. And you are a fearless femme energy coach. What does that entail?
Yeah, so I work with women exclusively, mostly female entrepreneurs, women who want more in life, who want to be leaders, and they need that support. So it's a 3-step process when they work with me. First of all, we look into healing in terms of healing the deep stuff, the uncomfortable things, the things that we don't want to face, and 2, teaching some tools like how do you deal with on a day-to-day basis, and tapping is one of my favorite ways to help women do it, with the little anxieties that pop up, the things that trigger you, the things that get in the way. So they learn different tools to deal with that. Then we look at expanding their energy, because I believe that everyone has kind of a thermostat of how much good and ease and flow we allow into our lives.
Yes.
And I feel that we have to keep kind of turning that thermostat and opening ourselves up to a little bit more. And as soon as you open yourself up to a little bit more ease, a little bit more flow, you get something that you wanted, you're going to get triggered again, right? They say new level, new devil. You're constantly going to be getting something else is going to come up, right? So it's about opening that thermostat, then having the tools to be able to deal with it. And finally, aligning with your body and the natural cycle. So be that the cycles of the menstrual cycle, or if you're someone that is not menstruating, that can be the cycles of the moon, the cycles of nature, because we're so disconnected from the natural cycles. But in reality, they help us pinpoint when we need to take action and when we can rest. And they're not a fixed thing, but you can really use them. Once you get in touch, you can notice that there's certain times of the month, such as during menstruation, that are fantastic for reflection. And if you actually take some time to pause and rest and reflect, you will have those intuitive hits. And then during ovulation is a fantastic time to put that into action. And I think that we're so programmed that you have to be, go all the time, or, the 24-hour and the 24-hour day, the 24-hour work day is really based on the male energetic cycle. And that's why so many women, we don't feel that we fit into this kind of male way of doing business or of working. And I feel that we're shifting at the moment into a new paradigm.
Yes.
We've been so focused on this, how do I call it? Newtonian, Darwinian of survival of the fittest and competition and, if it's me or you kind of thing. And I think we're finally shifting into this feminine energy and realizing that actually the only way for things to be sustainable is based on cooperation. The new science that is coming out says that nature is all about cooperation. It's not about competition. And I think that aligning our bodies and our ways of working with the cycles of nature is one step in that direction.
Well, that's fantastic. I love it. And I love your analogy about the thermostat. Love it.
Yeah.
Where can the listeners find you online?
You can find me at The Vida Bonita on Instagram, on YouTube, on pretty much on Facebook. I'm everywhere.
Okay, I'll put your links in the show notes anyway. Thank you for sharing your deep, insightful wisdom and knowledge with us today, Maria Bonita.
Thank you so much for having me.
What is one of the most courageous things you've done? Because we are all about Create the Courage to Be Fearless podcast here.
The most courageous thing I've ever done is followed my gut, even though on paper it would seem like a bad idea, or other people have told me like multiple times. I can give you so many different examples, but it's following that gut feeling and taking that step forward, even though other people are saying to you it should be a different way. I think that is the most courageous thing that anyone can do in this age.
That's excellent. So what is your definition of courage?
My definition of courage is pretty similar to that. It's taking action, it's doing what your heart is leading you to do, and despite the fear, right? That the fear is always going to be there, and it's embracing it rather than pushing it away. It's like, I'm feeling the fear, thank you, I'm taking you along for the journey, let's go.